Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really weird glitch in how our brains work. We're going to talk about how the exact same choice can feel totally right one moment and then completely wrong the next. It turns out our preferences aren't nearly as stable as we like to believe, and this little mental flip-flop can have some pretty serious consequences.
All right, let's kick things off with a little puzzle. Imagine you're in a position where you have to decide how much compensation a man gets after being shot in a robbery. Okay, so here are the two scenarios. In one, he's shot at the convenience store he goes to every single day. In the other, it happens at a different store, one he only went to because his usual place was closed. So, here's the question for you. Should he get compensated differently? Does one of those situations just, feel more tragic than the other?
Okay, now this is where things get really interesting. When people are shown just one of these scenarios, in isolation, they almost always award more money to the guy who was shot in the unusual store. Why? Well, it's because that story just feels more poignant, doesn't it? Our brains immediately jump to this powerful if-only narrative. If only his regular store hadn't been closed. And that emotional reaction, that's our quick thinking system one. It translates that feeling of bad luck directly into a higher dollar amount.
But then, watch this. When we put both scenarios right next to each other, side by side, the logic does a complete 180. Suddenly, almost everyone agrees the compensation should be exactly the same. The injury is identical, right? So why should the location matter? Seeing them together forces our slower, more deliberate, logical brain, our system 2, to step in. And it applies a simple rule. Same harm equals same compensation.
So what you just saw is a classic example of what psychologists call a preference reversal. It's this bizarre phenomenon where you, the exact same person, can have two totally opposite opinions about the same options. And the only thing that changes is whether you see them by themselves or next to each other. It really all boils down to the two different systems our brains use to make decisions.
So let's break that down. When you're looking at just one thing, that's a single evaluation, you're kind of at the mercy of your fast, gut reaction emotional system 1. It just reacts to what's right in front of it, based on this principle of what you see is all there is. It doesn't look for more context. But the moment you put two things side by side, that's a joint evaluation, you bring comparison into the mix. And that forces your slower, more analytical system 2 to wake up and start looking for consistent rules and logic it can apply across the board.
And look, this isn't just about emotional stories and feelings. This exact same logic flip happens even when we're dealing with something that you'd think would be totally logical. Cold hard cash and probabilities.
Okay, take a look at these two bets. You've got bet A, which is kind of a long shot, but man, the payout is big. Then there's bet B. It's way safer. You've got a 97% chance of winning, but the prize is smaller. Now, if I ask you, which one do you want to play? Most people, almost everyone, picks the safer one, bet B. It just feels better to lock in an almost guaranteed win, right?
But what if we change the question? Let's flip the script. Instead of choosing one to play, I want you to imagine you already own both of these bets. They're yours. Now your job is to look at each one all by itself and decide, what's the absolute lowest price you'd sell it for?
And boom, there it is again, the reversal. When people are asked to put a price tag on these bets one by one, they consistently demand a higher price for bet A. Yeah, the risky one they literally just said they didn't want. How is that possible? Well, when you're looking at it alone, that big, juicy $160 prize acts like a powerful anchor. It just grabs your attention and completely warps your idea of how much the bet is worth. Your preference totally flips.
What's really wild is that the psychologists who first discovered this found that people are often completely unaware of how irrational they're being. This quote on the screen is amazing. It's from a participant who got stuck in a crazy loop. He would choose to play bet B, then put a higher price on bet A, and was then willing to pay money to swap the bet he just chose for the one he just rejected. He'd go through this cycle over and over, totally bewildered by his own decisions. Okay, so this effect gets even more fascinating when we start comparing things that don't even seem to belong in the same category. This is where our sense of context, or lack thereof, really messes with us. So check this out. If you ask people to donate to a cause to save dolphins, they're usually pretty generous. Who doesn't love dolphins? They're cute, they're smart, it feels good to help them. But if you ask a different group of people to donate to a program that protects farm workers from skin cancer, the average donation is almost always lower. It's a really important cause, but it just doesn't trigger that same immediate, warm and fuzzy emotional response.
But what do you think happens when you put both of those causes in front of people at the same time and ask which one deserves more? You guessed it, the preference flips, and it flips dramatically. All of a sudden, a feature that was basically invisible before becomes the most important thing. This is about humans versus animals. And in that direct comparison, people overwhelmingly decide that protecting human health is more important. The farm workers end up getting the bigger donation.
And here's the exact same idea, but with something totally non-emotional. Look at these two dictionaries. If you see dictionary A all by itself, that like new condition is really appealing, right? It's easy to see and it feels good. But the second you put it next to dictionary B, it becomes instantly obvious that having double the number of words is way more important than a torn cover. The comparison just makes the most crucial feature pop right out.
Now, this isn't just some fun psychological quirk to talk about. These preference reversals have really serious, often troubling consequences in the real world, especially in a place where we demand logic and consistency above all else, our legal system.
So get this. In a mock trial study, researchers gave jurors two different cases to look at. Case 1, a bank gets defrauded out of $10 million. Case 2, a child is badly burned because their pajamas were flammable. Now, when different juries saw these cases separately, they actually awarded more money to the bank. They were anchored by that huge $10 million number. But when a jury saw both cases together, their sympathy and outrage for the burned child took over, and that victim received way more money. It's a complete reversal of justice depending only on the context.
And this is probably the most unsettling part of this whole thing. The U.S. legal system, an institution that's supposed to be built on pure reason, often makes this problem worse. In many situations, it actually prohibits jurors from considering other cases. It forces them into this narrow, single evaluation frame, which we know is the less rational, more emotionally driven way to think. It goes completely against everything we know about how to make a sound judgment.
So, what's the takeaway from all this? I mean, what can we actually do about it? Well, understanding this bias isn't just about pointing out flaws in other people or in big systems. It's about giving yourself a decision-making superpower, a tool to make better, more rational choices in your own life.
And the key is actually pretty simple, but it's really powerful. To be more rational, you need to use a broader frame. So here's what you do. The next time you have a big decision to make, stop and ask yourself, am I only looking at this one thing in isolation? If you are, you have to actively seek out a comparison. How does this option stack up against another one? By placing the decision in a wider context, you force your more logical system to get involved. It doesn't matter if it's a job offer, a new car, or which charity to support, evaluating things together is almost always going to lead to a more stable, more thoughtful decision that truly reflects what you value.
You know, Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel Prize winner whose research this is all based on, he summed it up perfectly. He said, "It is often the case that when you broaden the frame, you reach more reasonable decisions." It's a great reminder that the quality of our choices isn't just about the options themselves, but about the context we see them in.
So, I'll leave you with a question to chew on. Think about an important decision you've made recently. Were you looking at it completely in isolation? Be honest. And now, thinking back, do you think adding a comparison, just one other option to look at, might have changed your mind?